There's scenes here at Perry Park.
Chris Lynn has taken the wild thing and sent him.
Oh, Bateman! Yeah!
Welcome, faithful, to episode 43 of the Beyond the Sidelines podcast. My name is Finn, and joining me this week in studio, Campbell, Angus. Boys, we're back. Restrictions are lifting somewhat. Steadily.
Yeah.
Yes. But that means that we can now record back in studio together, the full contingent. Boys, how good?
Feels a bit
Surreal.
Yeah,
you know?
haven't seen you boys in so long.
I saw you.
I haven't seen you in so long.
Every week.
I've been recording from home, so I haven't seen Gus for quite a while.
No.
Lucky.
I know. I was trying
I'm
to put it
kidding,
off
mate.
for weeks
I'm
and weeks.
kidding, mate. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Yeah, but we are, I think for a few weeks at the start, if you want to track back to the early episodes, we called it a variety of names. But the St. Lucia Caravan Park probably cropped up a few times.
Wow.
That is a deep cut, I know.
That is a throwback.
I
That's
know,
a bit of
but
nostalgia there, mate.
What you're getting, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on Facebook, are these beautifully coloured walls right here.
That is true. I just realised. Oh, no, they have been seeing it in weeks gone by, thanks to Gus being in the studio for, I think, 2 weeks, and then me for a few weeks after that. But basically, we are recording out of the University of Queensland, where Campbell and I do attend. And basically, this has been home.
It is
the Beyond the Sidelines podcast for 43 weeks now.
It has.
Yeah.
But we are still not used to the colour of these walls and how repulsive they are, Gusman.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're also, I guess, squashed into the back end of this room as well. People can't really see it, but there's about half a metre to work with at the end of this table. Finn's got his knees up to his chin almost.
Yeah. How are your knees, though? My knees, I'm breezy. I've got plenty of leg space.
Yeah, I
can stretch out. I'm great. Look, I can get out of frame. Like, this is brilliant.
Yeah, I love this. They got the. I think they'll have to look at the side of my face. It's not the best angle to look at me from.
This is how much room I've got to work with, so I'll just jolt back, shall I?
Yep.
There we go.
And even the Spotify listeners could hear that one.
Hear the thud.
They could hear that. But
Anyway, boys,
restrictions are lifting.
Exactly.
And I took the journey on Sunday. I took the journey to find a pub, a bar, an establishment that was selling an alcoholic beverage, a bit of a spicy water.
You wouldn't think it'd be that hard to find a pub open.
You wouldn't think so, mate, but a lot of restaurants and pubs still aren't opening because they don't want to employ staff for only 10 people at a time.
Exactly.
Which you can understand.
You can understand.
Many people are going out.
At the end of the day, Campbell, CJ, my friend.
Yes.
You were on a mission. You were on a quest.
I was on a quest. I was about to say that. It was very Tolkien-esque.
Yep.
It was, making my way through Middle-earth, calling every single bar and pub along the way, trying to find the precious. And I found the precious. Thank you very much to Hop and Pickle. Shout out. They had a spot, and I said, "Hey, I'm not driving in my car whilst being on the phone. Do you have a spare spot?" And they said, "If you can be there in half an hour, you got it." So I booked it to get there in time, and I was not speeding, but I got there, and I was like, "All right, great. I can get a bowl of chips. I can get some pork cracklings from behind the bar, something small." I wasn't feeling a meal. This is Sunday afternoon. This is sundown. This is a breezy brew. But no, you had to order a full dine-in main. And I was like, oh, God's sakes. So I had to order a steak and chips. I would have gone to Palmy because that is the superior pub food, no question about it.
I like a good burger. But there are very few places which do a good burger. I think you go to a surf club, sure thing, burgers are good.
I think the steaks the go-to, medium rare.
No,
some nice chippies to go along with that. That goes down well with a beer.
Bit of pepper sauce.
Mate, I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, let's stop. I'm just feeding a palmy. Yeah. As the chat said, all I want, all I need, all I crave is a good pub feed.
Yeah, but
I would love one right now.
I am surprised that you managed to find a place, considering
I was too.
The limit is 10 people.
Yep.
Right, so I believe they're making that 20 in a week or two, and then 30. So we've built it up eventually. But even then, 30 people, that's still not a lot.
It's not.
Wait, is that true?
Yeah. They will.
Is that part of the roadmap?
I believe so. Gradually, I think that's with every sort of restaurant and business. They'll be allowing more people as the.
I don't think that's true.
I don't know.
I'm not
keen enough.
That's just what I heard.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it makes sense.
But
makes sense.
It's not as though you just go, we'll have 10 people. Now we can let 500 or an unlimited amount of people in. I think they'll build it up.
Yeah, they are. I think they're going month to month. So I think there's 3 or 4 weeks in between announcements.
But who's going to be open?
No,
exactly.
If only 20, 30 people are allowed.
Exactly. But basically, Campbell, I will just say this, mate. You were one of many of Queenslanders, nay Australians, who got the opportunity to taste that sweet nectar.
One of the lucky
last weekend.
Few. Nectar of the gods, as I said last week.
Exactly, mate.
One of the lucky few. You know, persistence does pay off.
It does.
You know, I've worked my whole life.
When you have a dream, chase it and don't give up. Because a lot of people will turn away, but you're better than that.
People said it couldn't be done.
No.
People said I was a fool. People said it's not worth trying. Campbell, don't do it.
No, I've actually forgotten what beer on tap tastes like.
It tastes like beer, mate.
Unfortunately,
no, but
that's true.
You get me. So you go from can. Can's the worst.
Canned is the worst.
Then you go to bottle. That's a bit better. But
yeah.
For some reason, there's something different between, you know, a packaged drink and out of the tap.
It is different.
It's not like that.
It hit different.
Sort of,
different.
It certainly does hit different. What's your beverage of choice?
4X, mate. Love it.
Yep.
Gatorade, I'm an athlete.
Gatorade?
No, I'm joking.
I go for water, personally. So,
keep hydrated.
My body's a temple.
Yeah.
No, but what I was trying to say before I was rudely interrupted by you, CJ.
Sorry, monsieur.
Yeah, yeah, I'll move on. Basically, is the fact that obviously restrictions are lifting. So, of course, Australians and Queenslanders are now able to travel and that type of thing. So, here's an idea. Stop watching.
No, don't.
No, stop watching.
Wait till the end. Okay,
Well, when I get to my point, stop watching. Okay, let me speak first, Campbell.
Go.
Drive to the beach and watch the podcast. Live a little, faithful.
You know? Beach. Is the beach the best place to go to listen to a podcast?
It's not, but it's
soothing sounds. If there was something that I would want as to put me asleep, it would be, you know, the sound of close your eyes, boys. Sound of waves crashing in the background. Close your eyes, Finn. Sound of waves crashing. You feel the headland hit the water. You feel the sand beneath your toes, and then you hear this lovely voice.
No, I'm not a big beach guy. I'm really not a big beach guy.
I was prompting Finn to speak. You just go, yeah, I'm not really a beach guy, if I'm honest.
Look, I was really overthinking that too, because I wasn't ready. This isn't something faithful. This isn't something we discussed pre-show. He threw that to me, pure improv.
That's what I'm all about here.
I wasn't. You never know what's coming next. And I had no idea what to say. I was frozen.
You wouldn't be at the beach.
No.
Nice warm day. Be on the sidelines podcast in your ears, having a brewski. Nothing better.
No, but it's been good. It's been good. Of course, to get out of the house, that's the main thing. Gusman, that's what I'm trying to say. The beach, you don't have to go to the beach. If you like Gusman and you don't want to go to the beach, then don't.
New Farm Park. You can have a brewski there.
Honestly, last time
you don't have to have a brew either. You alcohol.
Sorry. A normal water, not a spicy water. Normal water.
Look, do they even come that way?
I've never found them.
I brought my favorite bag to the beach. I think it was this was ages ago, but I think there's still sand in it.
What is a favorite bag?
About 3 or 4 years ago.
What is a favorite bag?
No,
I know Finn has a favorite bag because he likes to flaunt it all the time. It has the Rugby World Cup on it.
I just got a bag that I use all the time. I use a bag that I use all the time, and I usually keep my valuables in it. And
what do you have that is valuable, mate?
I'm actually trying to think of something.
Oh, my God.
It's funny. That's what a favourite bag looks like, CJ.
All I'm saying is the beach. Sand is just the worst thing on the face of this planet. It just,
it's not.
It just finds its...
there's famine.
No, it's
poverty. There's a lot of things that are worse.
Sand finds its way into, like, the deep crevices of everything.
No, because I will say this.
You're not wrong.
What's your most treasured item, CJ?
This podcast, boys.
Oh, okay. Here are the tears.
Our relationship. That's a good question.
It is. That's why I'm a journalist. Wannabe.
Probably my Zoom H4 recorder. It's probably my computer. No.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of sentimental value on a lot of things.
All right. Well, how about you think about that throughout this transition? We'll come back to you after the interview with Tate McDermott, of course, the Queensland Reds scrum half. And let's face it, a Wallaby in waiting. We had a great chat with him, but you can listen to what he had to say. Campbell?
Now.
And joining us this week is Queensland Reds scrum half Tate McDermott and Wallabies hopeful, or maybe we won't put too much pressure on him, but Tate, mate, back into training. How's that been?
Yeah, it's been good. Second day, so I think yesterday they looked after us a little bit, but testing day today, so the legs are pretty sore, that's for sure.
It was a bit of a shock for you to get back into the routine, I guess.
Oh, a little bit. I mean, I kind of kept up the training and stuff up here by myself. I've got a brother who's pretty keen on footy as well, so and one of his mates. So we've been doing quite a bit of training up here, but it's always tough when the coaches are looking on and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a little bit of shock today.
Yeah, for sure. How'd the boys perform, you reckon? How'd you come back? Who was leading the pack in terms of those long runs and whatnot?
Yeah, I reckon actually the boys were in pretty good shape. To be honest, I thought they'd be, a lot sloppier than they were today. So they're looking pretty fit actually. Leading the pack, Fraser McRae for the forwards, as expected.
Yep.
Doesn't look fit, but he's got a motor on him.
And then when you said that.
Yeah, and then youngster Josh Fluke won it for the back. So, mate, he's pretty handy, and I'm sure he'll come through in the next few seasons. So, yeah.
But, mate, it's a bit of a weird time for you guys at the moment, training for a competition that we don't really know what it's going to look like at the moment. How do you guys stay motivated? Because there's so much uncertainty still to come.
Yeah, I think that is a bit of a problem. I think the motivation's probably coming from, our last few games, particularly the Bulls game, which we finished with. And then obviously for boys that, want to push for higher honours, I think that's motivation as well. So, at the moment, we're all focused on trying to prepare our bodies if there is a season, and not quite sure. There's, like you said, there's plenty of rumours floating around with our July kickoff against 4 other franchises in Australia, including the Western Force. So I think our motivation is really around winning that. So hopefully we get a bit of clarity in the next few days. But at the moment, I think everyone's just pumped to be back around each other. In our groups of 10. So, yeah.
Exactly. Groups of 10, that's important. Mate, you mentioned it, Western Force. Is they a team that you'd like to see back in the professional Australian rugby, I guess, competition going forward? Because we see a bit of them in the NRC somewhat, but do we need to see them back in the super level?
Yeah, I think it's, obviously a pretty controversial topic, but, I personally, I'd love to see Western Force back. It's a beautiful part of the world over there. And as you saw from the Bledisloe last year, they love their footy. They'll turn out in numbers to support their team. So, and obviously, Twiggy Forrest at the helm is pretty important for Australian rugby moving forward. So, personally, without delving too much into it, I'd love to see them there. So, it'd be awesome, I reckon.
Yeah, there has been talk about a domestic rugby competition replacing the Super Rugby maybe this year. What are your thoughts on the whole domestic sort of competition?
Yeah, personally, I think, Super Rugby does need change. I've been lucky enough to go to South Africa the past 3 years. And like, don't get me wrong, it's awesome. Like places like Cape Town, Durban, I'm pretty lucky to have been there, and they're brilliant spots to play footy in front of. Obviously, their fans are passionate, but I just think with the model we've got at the moment, it's just not working. People aren't turning out supporting their teams like they have in the past, and that's partially because we haven't won one game, so that's on us a little bit. But also, I think there just needs to be a little bit of a rejig. Time zones and all that kind of stuff that everyone knows already. So I think the domestic comp is probably the starting blocks of what's going to be better, and I think that's probably the direction we'll move in. I'm hopeful anyway. So with the inclusion of New Zealand as well, obviously, they're world class, so we need to include them if they want us as much as possible. So, yeah.
Hey, what about Eddie Jones? His comments during the week saying that Australian rugby would be better off with 3 Super Rugby franchises. Do you think Australian rugby has the depth to host, 4 teams as it does now, or 5 teams going forward?
Yeah, it's tough, because I think particularly the Brumbies are obviously leading the front at the moment. They had a pretty good win against the Chiefs, and we're not far off behind them. I feel like we're not far off behind them. In saying that, I reckon we could beat them as well. But 3 teams would be obviously a radical change to what we have at the moment. Cutting it down to 4 teams was massive. And we were the only kind of team that didn't receive a lot of those players. So it just kind of depends what position we're in moving forward, whether we need to or not. But I think if you can have that reach, at the moment we've got it in 4 states, with the Rebels, Brumbies, and Tars, and then us as well. So I think it all just comes back to if we're winning games. So if we continue down this path of, one successful franchise, 3 at the bottom of the ladder, then we're going to have to look at change. But I don't have all the answers right now. So I think Eddie Jones would have a better picture than me. But it is tough to say. We'll axe one and see if it helps. It's kind of, I don't know. There's a few questions that need answers.
It's very uncertain. I get it. But what about, I guess, a false sense of hope that I guess Australian Super Rugby teams could give fans? Now, this is quite blunt in a way, but if you guys do have a domestic comp and you guys start winning games, and then next year we bring back the Kiwis, and normality or what we've seen the last few years resumes, could that be, I guess, even worse for Australian rugby?
Biased Kiwi coming out there a little bit.
I am a Kiwi, so let's disclose that.
I'd probably disagree with that. I think, obviously you're not going to have the quality of the Kiwis there, but I think that could be an advantage moving forward. Obviously they'll have only have seen us on tape. We took the Crusaders to the line this year. So we're not far off, mate, to be honest. It's just a matter, particularly in our team, just experience coming through. So particularly in those key roles. If we hold this team together, which we're doing at the moment, I think this team will go a long way, regardless if we're playing Australian or Kiwi opposition. So, I think everything's, in leading the right direction. We've just got to continue to work hard, and this 7-week preseason gives us the opportunity to do that.
Well, we spoke with Harry Wilson a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned he was pretty disappointed that you guys weren't able to come away with more wins from that the opening of the Super Rugby season. What do you think the Reds need to do better, I guess, in the future to win these big games?
Yeah, I think it all comes back to what I touched on before, just the experience. Obviously it's frustrating being Reds fans and, seeing close loss after close loss, silly errors, all that kind of stuff. But, I think the longer we stick together, we play together, the better this team's going to go. And, I know from firsthand, like we've actually, with all due respect to everyone that's played before me since 2011, we haven't really achieved much. Particularly since I arrived there 3 years ago, we've won hardly any games, and it's been so frustrating. So, mate, I think it's, like I said before, we're slowly becoming, we keep players like Jordy Batara and stuff on the field. He's had some absolute ratchet luck, but he's going to be, a player of the future. And if we can keep players like him and Hunter on the field, they're our main 2 strike weapons. And you got James O'Connor inside of them. Harry Wilson, like you mentioned before. And then you got the impact of Fraser McWright coming off the bench and Liam Ryan and stuff like that. So, mate, we've got the players. We just need to keep it on the field, grow with experience, as I mentioned before, and, we'll start to take off.
For sure. And, you mentioned a few key young players there especially. Do you think that's an advantage to you guys, that you guys have been, I guess, playing together, maybe more so for the ones who are based in Brisbane in high school, but do you think that's a really big advantage that the Reds have over perhaps the Tars or the Rebels or any of the other Super Rugby franchises for that matter, that you've all been quite close for quite a few years playing through the junior ranks? Do you think that's quite a strength to you guys?
Yeah, 100%. I think if you look at our team, we'd have close to 90% come through that GPS system. So, those boys have been playing each other, particularly the younger guys have been playing each other for years now, and they've been playing with each other. So you got the core of that Churchy group together there with, Angus Scott Young and Liam Wright. And you also got, like, I've played with Fraser for a while now as well. So, also Wilso, and then you've got the club rugby connection as well. So, those boys obviously head off. If they're not playing for the Reds, they're at their clubs playing good footy as well. So, I think it's a massive advantage. You know, you look at teams like the Rebels, they're kind of just strung together. You know, on paper they'll look, you know, far greater than us, and you know, we haven't played them yet, so I can't really comment too much. But you know, I think it would be an advantage for us moving forward. Yeah.
Well, mate, you mentioned the GPS competition. Now let's talk about you and I guess your rise through the junior ranks a bit. You didn't play in GPS. You played at Sunny Coast, mate. Was there any temptation for you to come, you know, down to Brisbane, or even beyond that? Did you feel that, you know, were you confident that you could take your rugby to the next level without going to the GPS competition?
Yeah, well, funny that you mentioned that. Actually, I spent grade 8 and 9 and halfway through grade 9 at Brisbane State High. So
there you go. Okay.
Wow.
There you
yeah,
go.
so I did try. You know, I was at a school called Matthew Flinders, which is a little, you know, a little school up in Budgeon there on the Sunny Coast, and you know, we didn't win too many games, so I thought I'd try to take my rugby to the next level. And you know, my mum went to Brisbane State High, so I tried it out, got in there on a merit. And I was living with my grandparents for a year and a half, so I did try it. To be honest, I was playing Bs, so I didn't like it too much. But particularly when the A's and Bs were getting pumped, being State High. But my actually the year I was in, they went on to win in 2016. So you know, they actually turned out to be a pretty good team, and it would have been good to be a part of it. But you know, I'm pretty proud of, you know, where I came from, and Sunny Coast Grammar, you know, we're pretty underrated in terms of performing, you know, producing rugby players. So, you know, you got Blake Enever, who came out of Sunny Coast Grammar as well. He plays for the Brumbies. So, you know, I think what I was able to do was kind of get away from, I think back then GPS was really, you know, they focused on the team a lot. You know, I was pretty lucky to be at Grammar, where they focused on me as an individual a lot, with my, you know, particularly being halfback, working on my skills and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's definitely two different systems, but you know, I'm pretty happy with the way I went about it and moved back home. Yeah.
Definitely, mate. And look where it's taken you. I guess the big honour that you were bestowed upon you to begin with was playing sevens for Australia, mate. Was it 19? You know, what was that experience like?
Yeah, so it was yeah, it was definitely weird. You know, I'd played probably a handful of men's sevens tournaments before that. You know, obviously played a little bit at school. Played youth sevens with Fraser McBride and Isaac Lucas and stuff like that. And you know, that kind of started it. We went over and we beat the Kiwis in New Zealand, and so a few of us got kind of train on staff. Obviously not paid, but just we'd fly down to Sydney every now and then and train with the main squad. So from there, you know, I was picked in a Tribe Sevens team, which is like an invitational team that they pick. And you know, I was actually with Jock Campbell. We flew up to Darwin together. And you know, I had a few good games, and the coach at the time, Andy Friend, tapped me in the back and asked me if I wanted to come to Wellington. So you know, I wasn't sure what I was in for, but you know, it's obviously a whole another ball game, I guess. So, but yeah, I absolutely loved it, mate. I only played 4 tournaments, but yeah, like you said before, it was an honour to play for my country at 18, and you know, whilst it was sevens, you know, it is you know, pretty amazing to, you know, kind of throw on that gold jersey for the first time.
Was it ever a dream for you to maybe play sevens exclusively, maybe make an Olympic Games or something like that? Or have you always sort of set your goals to play 15s?
Yeah, I think, you know, that kind of, you know, once I got that exposure at the sevens, that definitely, you know, added that thought in the back of my head of, because, you know, it's an amazing lifestyle. You get to travel the world playing different cities every week. So, you know, and then the carrot dangling of the Olympics was there as well. So, you know, I think I grew up watching the Reds my whole life pretty much. So, for me, that was always the goal. And as a halfback, it's much harder to, if I was to stay in the sevens program, you know, to get into 15. So when I got, you know, the offer from Nick Stiles at the time to come to the Reds, you know, I jumped at it, even though, you know, the sevens program was so good to me at the time. You know, it's pretty tough to give the playmaking reins to a kid just coming out of school. So, you know, I owe players like James Stannard and, you know, the head coach Andy Friend a lot for the development, the part they played in my early development. So, but yeah, I thought for me being a halfback, I was just going to try and give 15s a crack, and if that didn't work, I was going to try to head back to 7. So, hopefully it kind of worked at this stage. Yeah.
It looks like it's worked so far, mate, to be fair. I mean, I'm sure you're humble, but it's worked, from our end, it's looking like it's working. But, mate, let's talk about Reds. Making your debut, round 2 against Melbourne, down in Melbourne, I believe. How was that, nervousness-wise? And I guess, how much did you sleep the night before and that type of thing?
Yeah, like I've always kind of, I never really get nervous until I walk out on the field kind of thing. And, I think starting on the bench helped. I loved it. We got pumped that game, and I still loved it. So I think we got a red card and a yellow card pretty early, so we were down to 13 players. But it was massive. To play, even off the bench as a 19-year-old. I debuted with people like Liam Wright, JP Smith, and Filippo, Brennan Panga, and Mosa. There was a few boys there that are playing now, so it was pretty special for me and my family. We all love the Reds, so I'm sure Mum was pretty happy watching me on telly that night. So, I absolutely love this team, mate. We've got such a good group here at the moment, and I'm really excited for what's to come.
You had a pretty decent start to the season. I mean, when the season got suspended, I believe you were the tied second highest try scorer or something. Did you expect to be that good right at the start of your Super Rugby career?
Nah, I think those tries were off the back of some, pretty special efforts from other players. So, as I've been a halfback, I'm just there to clean up the scraps. So, I think I wasn't really too happy with how the season went. I thought, particularly at games against the Brumbies, we had them at halftime. We should have run away with that game. You look back at games against the Lions, Jaguars, we should have flogged both those teams. So, personally, I've obviously had a lot to work on. Whilst I was scoring tries, my passing and kicking kind of wasn't where it needed to be. So, I think this 5-6 week block we just had of being in isolation really helped me just to refocus, reset, and set new goals. So,
Yeah, I mean, you talked about earlier in the season not quite finishing a lot of the games. It was quite disappointing because we're huge fans of you guys on the podcast. We speak about how great of a young team you guys are. What kind of changes has potentially Brad Thorne implemented into the squad to help you kind of get over that hump of, dominating maybe the first half, maybe playing 3/4 to the best standard you can, and then potentially at the end, maybe letting them slip? What's kind of been put in place to kind of help that or address that?
Yeah, I think, we sat down and addressed that, and there was a few key issues. The first one being our fitness. We had a shorter preseason due to the World Cup. So I don't think physically we were really at a stage where we could go for 80 minutes full throttle. And then the second one that came into it, we weren't using our bench well. We had props playing for 80 minutes, which is, a cardinal sin for the poor fellas. So, I think we definitely addressed that. We had players coming on when we returned back from the trip. We had players like Fraser McRide and stuff entering the team. So, I think that helped massively with our depth going forward. And we also almost continued to train like it was a preseason just so we could get our physical state right. So, I think they were the two key things that, also key, players making silly errors, particularly in the playmaking position. So, I was guilty of a few errors and so forth. But, I think the biggest one was just building our depth. We had a few key players injured at the start of the year, and we also weren't fit enough. So, they're the two areas we addressed. And, we've got to, this is why it's actually, a pretty good opportunity for us to get all of our injured players back on their feet at the moment, so that we don't, kind of fall in the same trap twice kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Well, speaking of addressing issues, and of course, Brad Thorne as well, sorry. Mate, the story back in 2018, you're over in Argentina You've got the long hair going, and
Headband on,
exactly,
taped head.
Well, you tell us the story, mate. Didn't he tell you to, I guess, trim your hair a bit?
Yeah, I spent a while there trying to grow it out, and it kind of got to the stage where I actually couldn't. Like, it looked long, but it wasn't actually long enough to tie back. So it was kind of at that awkward length. That's why I had to wear the headband there for a little bit. But I think it was the Bulls we played. They kind of. I came off the bench there, and they kind of went after it. Went after the headband, and obviously it was pretty wild having that much hair in your eyes. So it definitely affected my game. I think that's probably the worst game I've ever played in the Reds jersey. So Thorny kind of tapped me on the shoulder. We were having a chat that day on the way to Argentina, and he said he wanted it chopped by Wednesday. So as soon as I got there, when Thorny speaks, you listen, particularly back then. So mate, it was chopped straight away. And I tried to keep it similar, but looking back on some of those photos, it was pretty shocking though. So
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, what Thorny says is gospel pretty much. But you mentioned there potentially having your preseason, I guess, interrupted by the World Cup. Now, let's talk about your kind of World Cup aspirations. You aiming for the next one?
Oh yeah, I've got to be careful how I word this, but I'd absolutely, if the opportunity is presented, I'd absolutely love to play for the Wallabies. It's always been a dream for me, and there's definitely something in the back of my mind that is pushing for that 2023. But like I say to a lot of people, I can't get ahead of myself. Until I'm winning games consistently for Queensland, there's no point throwing on that gold jersey. So I've got to do it right by myself first, and make sure that if that opportunity does come around, that I'm ready to take it. So I still got a little bit of work to do in between now and then. Yeah.
Well, have you spoken to Dave Rennie or anyone from the Wallabies camp about what you maybe need to work on when rugby does resume?
Yeah, so I've been in constant communication with Dave Rennie and his assistant Scott Wisemantle, who's obviously the attack coach. So hopefully, he's been actually really helpful so far. Just giving me little, I guess, kind of drills and exercises to do, particularly in the isolation period where I could have worked on my craft, so my passing and kicking. I think also having, Willie Genia around, I've been seeing him once a week just to refine my skills, and that's been massive for me. So I guess the key things that came out of my chat with Dave Rennie was, my meters. So when I'm finishing my pass, obviously the first main ones were my passing and kicking game improved massively. So I took that on board, and then also my work rate just around when I'm passing. Sometimes I'm a bit slow to get to that ball kind of thing. So that comes back to fitness as well. So there's a few little, not massive changes, but a few little things that I think will help my game massively just from those chats with Dave.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Well, hopefully going forward, we'll see you don Wallabies gold. But again, first and foremost, we want to see you winning games for the Queensland Reds. Tate McDermott, mate, thank you for joining us this week, and go well when rugby does resume.
Cheers, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, mate. Cheers, appreciate it. Cheers. Thanks again to Tate McDermott for chatting to us this week. Boys, what do we make of it?
So good. Hey, I'm really excited. We are very Reds positive on this podcast, and we've spoken a lot about Tate McDermott, how good of a talent he is. Future Wallaby. Don't want to put pressure on him, but it's looking very likely, and I'm sure he's hoping he will be. But no, we are big fans of Tate on the podcast, all the Reds youngsters on this podcast.
Of course, we had Harry Wilson on a couple of weeks ago.
Yep, so. Fraser McRae, episode 1. Now that's a callback. A few weeks ago, we listened to that, or you tried listening to that over Zoom, and I can't get through a minute of it. So don't expect us. Sorry, Fraser, but we're not going to listen to that interview episode. Do you want to speak?
I couldn't get through the intro.
Well, you called him. You said it was Jack packed at the end. That's where that began.
Yeah, that was.
See, we haven't really gone back to that.
We haven't really. So if you want the original jokes, jokes, don't go back to the first ones because they sound dreadful. Yeah, they don't sound that bad.
I think
it's not that bad. The structure was weird.
Episode 2 picked up a lot.
The structure was not refined.
No,
but. Yeah, it was all right.
We've continued to adapt.
It's about learning.
Now,
this is a learning experience.
Boys, we are big fans of the Queensland Reds, and I guess seeing how they can develop over the next few years, because they are a very young team. And you look through that starting 15 in particular, boys. And there are a lot of Wallabies in waiting, such as Tate.
Certainly.
Including those, included in that bracket were Isaac Lucas, Harry Hockings, and Isaac Rodder, who is already a Wallaby, of course, the starting lock in the 4-jumper for the Wallabies. But, boys, they've all been stood down. It seems like they've been released. Because
to me, it looks like a release. I know it's stood down without pay.
Yeah.
But to me, it looks like a release.
It's a 60% pay cut that they've refused to accept.
Yeah.
Now, boys, that's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
That is a big deal because that's a lot of money. And seeing that if the season does come back, well, actually, that's another thing. The season hasn't officially been announced yet. We don't know what's coming and when.
No.
So we don't know how long the season's going to be. And that determines, how much of a pay cut should they really be getting? Because originally they're going to play a 17-week season, right? Something like that. And now if they still play like a 10-week season, 60% fair?
Well, I think it's always changing. I mean, we've seen the NRL, they were originally going to take a 60 or 70% pay cut, and that's changed now to, I think, 25%. The AFL changed theirs after announcing their season restart. It really depends on how many games they get in and what the broadcasters
Is there an echo in here?
willing to pay.
So.
No, I 100% agree, mate. But I remember seeing the Waratahs players about 2 months ago accept their pay cuts or a month ago. Now, it seemed to be all smooth sailing for Rugby Australia, but once again, another bump in the road for that organisation.
It's pretty comical at this point.
It's just absolute turmoil.
It is speed bump after speed bump after speed bump. There's never smooth sailing. It's, broadcast deals. It's players wanting to go overseas. It's the Israel Folau saga.
Exactly.
There's always something.
It's complicated,
happening.
pal.
It's just like,
it's complicated.
Get your shit together.
But the question I want to ask both of you separately is where will these 3 players end up? Now, let's start with Isaac Rodder. Now, this is a bloke, again, he was a contender, if not the favourite for the Reds captaincy for the season 2020 before Wright was named as the captain.
Which was quite a shock.
It was a
Wright
shock.
Getting it. We all thought it would be Isaac Rodder.
Isaac Rodder. This is a guy who has set himself firmly within the Wallaby starting 15, and now he's basically without a Super Rugby contract, even though technically he still has one.
I wonder if he has to honour it. Like if he can't play for a team. I don't think he would have to, because he's not being compensated for it. So
no, I think it'll be a mutual termination.
I would think so.
I think he's still under contract.
Yeah, but if he's not being compensated for his pay,
he can definitely just
void it.
Pack up things and leave. Go overseas.
Where would you see him go?
Well, because that's the thing. Because for starters, all 3 players, they're not going to play professional rugby for Australian super franchise in Australian Super Rugby, should that come back in whatever format that is, because
not this season at least.
No, because it's just going to be the same situation. So all players, I think, are either going to have to explore playing club rugby. So for Rodder, that means playing for East. For Hockings, that means UQ. And for Lucas, that means Sunnybank, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think he does play for Sunnybank.
Or do they explore options overseas? Japan.
I can see Japan being a viable option, especially for someone like Isaac Lucas.
Yep.
And someone like Isaac Rodder.
Well, here's a curveball, gents. Sorry, just quickly. Super Rugby Aotearoa. Now, this competition could very well be, in my opinion, the best rugby competition that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because New Zealand rugby is so passionate, and you see it every year in Super Rugby. Those New Zealand teams, those New Zealand derbies, they are the height and the backbone of what Super Rugby is.
They're the pinnacle of Super Rugby, the pinnacle of world rugby.
It is.
Arguably.
But does, the influence of Australian and South African teams somewhat, I guess, affect that or affect its reputation or drag it down? Somewhat, you could argue that. So now that they're on their own, and that competition could soar.
Could leapfrog. And I don't see any of these 3 players. The only one I can see viably going to them and getting a game is Isaac Rodder. And I don't see the Kiwi teams really wanting to pay these players. Because are they going to get in the team? Are they going to be that big of a addition to the team that they don't already have?
Also, there's the possibility that they could change codes as well.
The only person I can see doing that is Isaac Lucas. I can see him either sevens or maybe league.
Look, because
I assume most of them can play sevens.
It's not going to happen where they go to league for starters. They're not going to go to league and then explore possibly coming back next year. It's just not going to happen. They could go to sevens and chase that Olympic dream. But again, the only player who has the physical capabilities, in my opinion, to do that would be Isaac Lucas.
Well, he played Australian Sevens, right? Or a schoolboys Australian Sevens.
He hasn't played for
represented.
No.
He's represented Australia at some level.
You mentioned Japan as well. Is their competition? Has their competition restarted, or is it looking to restart in the near future? Because that could be a big factor as well when their season restarts. Because the Australian domestic competition that they're thinking of starting in place of the Super Rugby is likely going to start in July, which is a long way away.
Yeah, no, that's likely, but nobody knows these things, mate. And nobody, again, I've said this before, nobody knows the structure. That's the big thing. So rumours originally were we were going to see a trans-Tasman competition where the 4 East Coast Australian Super Rugby franchises join New Zealand teams. Now we're seeing Western Force as part of a 5-team competition. And now, I think it was last week, there were reports that the Sunwolves are going to join and be based in Australia somewhere for a 6-team Australian competition.
South Australia.
Could be, yeah, mate.
Adelaide Sunwolves.
Get Radelaide into it. Now, you guys might not be aware of this player, but Joe Marchant. He's an English outside centre.
Does he have a mustache?
No, not really. No, I think you're thinking of Joe Marler.
Yes, I am.
Basically, this guy is a centre for England, few caps. Before the Super Rugby season this year, he signed for the Blues to develop his game and take his game to the next level. And again, this could be an opportunity for someone like Lucas, Hawkins, Rodder to do that exact same thing. James Haskell, another English player, used to play flanker for the Poms. He did the exact same thing. Went to the Highlanders because New Zealand rugby is that different. So this could be an opportunity, a silver lining for these players to take their games to the next level.
Do they get in though? I don't think they do. I don't think you get game time. I think
they're good enough to at least make a decent crack of playing for New Zealand.
Look, I don't think so.
Look, I don't think
Isaac Lucas was not that great this season.
I think Lucas could maybe bench for the Highlanders. I think Rodder could pack for the Highlanders. And I think I could see Hawkins playing for the Hurricanes in terms of play style and that type of thing. But again, it's New Zealand rugby is so different too. But that's what this is about. And this is what I'm trying to say. It's an opportunity for these players to go, let's take my game to the next level. Let's expand it. Let's be better.
Question. What's the situation with county rugby in the UK? You'll know this better than Gus and I will. And also, second part question, what is the situation in France at the moment?
Thanks for putting me on the spot there, mate. As far as I know, look,
testing your knowledge.
Yeah, both competitions aren't starting up soon.
Okay.
I know even in football, last night, different sport, Scotland, they cancelled their season last night. So that just shows the state of how bad the coronavirus still is over in that part of the world. So at the moment, they aren't heading back for a return.
Okay.
But Isaac Rodder, I could see him going to the Premiership should it return.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. You've got to consider things such as travel. You know, can he actually get there legally? You know, so it's so complicated. But I think our best bet at the moment is, and probably the most realistic option for all 3 players is park footy, which is going to be entertaining. So again, UQ, Sunnybank and Nice. That'll be good to see, mate. That's what we want to see.
Western Force.
Yeah, but they're not gonna go for that money. Not this year.
No, but they maybe stood down and then Reds might go, see ya.
So
but they can still play for UQ in that.
Yeah, but then if there's a national competition.
Yeah, but again, this is for that national competition, isn't it? So these players, they're not going to then go, okay, I'm going to go to the Western Force for basically the same money and take the same pay cut.
Yeah, for a
worse
probably
franchise.
Worse franchise and worse coaching, I would assume.
So you don't see these boys staying at the Reds?
No, again, I think that's probably reading too much into it, mate. I think that's right now, I think they're at the Reds, but I'm saying look elsewhere.
Yeah,
I really think New Zealand for a season could do these boys well.
I'd like to see it for their career growth.
That's what I mean.
Because it'll make them such better players.
But I think, to be honest, I can see these players only staying at the Reds, at least for this season, playing club rugby. Next year, I could see Hawkins possibly going to the Tars. I could see him.
He looks like a Tars player.
I could see
he
him.
Reminds me of, what's his name?
Rob Simmons.
Yep.
I was about to say.
He's exactly like Rob Simmons.
I could see the Tars trying to, groom Hawkins as a possible Simmons 2.0, even though Simmons is somehow the captain of the Warriors.
Which is ridiculous with Michael Hooper on the squad.
Exactly.
But didn't Michael Hooper stand down as captain?
That's quite common, mate. New Zealand rugby captains have been doing that for years, to be fair, stepping down because, it's a lot of pressure to coach to captain your super team as well as your national team.
Not much pressure on the Waratahs this season.
No, they're pretty dreadful.
But anyway, I can't wait for that announcement. Hopefully next week. Hopefully this time next week, we're talking about Super Rugby Australia having been announced in full flight, but another competition, CJ, which you were very excited about, of course. And this is back, and this isn't experimental. This isn't radical like Super Rugby Australia will be. The AFL.
Footy's back, baby.
Footy's back. June 11th.
Yes.
Mate, this is very exciting.
Very
It's
exciting.
a bit weird too.
Very strange.
I'm loving the politics of it all in terms of we don't want to give the Melbourne teams any advantage. So we've seen the two South Australian teams.
They've kicked up a bit of a stink.
And the two WA teams. They're relocating to the Gold Coast.
Yeah, which will be cool to see.
It'll be really cool.
Like,
so,
I wish we could go watch them because it'd be cool
imagine
to
that,
see.
going to see like Freo West Coast or the, what do they call it? Not the Q Clash, that's the Queensland. The South Australia Port Crows. What do they call that? The Showdown.
Yeah.
The Showdown, that's what it's called. Yeah, I'd love to go see that. Like Metricon, just be so weird.
Cool.
I'm really surprised that these teams aren't being allowed to play out of their own state.
It's travel problems, isn't it?
But I mean, the Warriors...
No one's going to be able to go to the games anyway.
Mate,
so it's not like the fans are missing out.
It's not as though that flight's going to... A flight from WA to Victoria is going to be...
I wonder if they'll schedule the games to line up with the home team's schedule. You know what I mean?
I think so.
So like to line up with the right time for Western Australian viewers.
Yeah, I think they might actually.
I think they might. So like play it at like midday or something like that.
Yeah, but aren't they?
Which would be terrible.
They're only releasing...
Last time I'd want to play footy.
Oh, yeah. They're only releasing...
Later, wouldn't it? WA.
3 hours, mate.
Yeah.
They're only releasing schedules, I think, 2 weeks at a time. I'm pretty sure. That could be very wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate. Where
it's not a bad idea. Again, coaches I've heard are not happy with that.
No.
Because they like to give... You'd love to give full warning to all the players. So, it's just another thing that makes players stressed.
Yeah.
It's just another, I guess, variable for players to think about, which you just want them thinking about footy, really.
Basically, yeah.
But I'm very excited. I think, I think it will go ahead. I don't know how long it'll last. I saw something where it was a couple thousand or like a couple hundred of the players, there's not thousands of players, but a couple hundred of the players had been tested and all came back with negative.
Players and staff, mate.
Players and
staff, yeah.
Have been tested and they've come back negative, so that's positive. Just depends.
No, it's negative. See, that's free comedy just for you.
If the players and the staff, I believe they're being educated on all the social distancing and all the protocols.
I mean, we all have.
I know, but the specifics to the AFL.
Actually,
they will have biosecurity rules in place for the players and staff. So obviously they've been briefed on that. If they can follow those rules, they should be able to get a season. I reckon it'd be in the 90%.
I don't know. Let's not speculate on numbers.
Again, that's
if they're able to get started, I don't see what's stopping them from continuing. If the rate continues at what it's at now, which is below 1%.
That's if it does, and if they follow the rules, which you can never be confident in anyone following the rules, especially young guys with lots of money.
Exactly.
But I mean, I feel more comfortable with Aussie rules players than I'd probably be more comfortable with rugby union players.
Okay, we're not getting into an argument here, gents. One of the weirder rules that the AFL have introduced, as well as I think it was football in the K League. We'll talk about the K League later.
We're talking about the K League later. That's interesting.
But one of the weirder rules that, again, both the K League and the AFL have introduced is social distancing on the bench.
Really?
Now, what's the point of that? I don't understand that at all. Now, for starters, these are people who you're interacting in the sheds with on very close parameters.
Having showers together.
Exactly. But hey, but you can't...
a lot of social distancing there. But showers 1.5 metres away, please.
But you can't sit next to each other.
No.
And then
I think that's more for an outward-facing thing. I think that's more like for people watching TV being like, look, these footballers have to socially distance as well, while others go and
mate, well, that's the thing. Then you get subbed on and you're running into people and you're getting tackled.
Give someone a hug.
Yeah, it's just like, mate, I've been waiting for this for so long.
Embrace me.
Just see a big group hug just in the centre circle. Yeah. I'd love that. That's football.
That's like, you remember when Hawthorn played in Canberra last year? I can't remember who it was against. Could have been against GWS, I'd assume.
Yeah,
and it was snowing.
Yeah.
And
was it like 2 degrees or something? It was something
crazy.
It was something
crazy. And Alistair Clarkson didn't allow the players to wear long sleeves.
No, he went shirtless at training, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
He
didn't let the players play with long sleeves. They had to play with the Guernseys with the sleeves cut off, obviously. and they did this big huddle in the middle of the field
God.
and to warm up.
2
and it was good fun.
degrees.
It was something like that, man. But it's
Your hands
shocking.
would get so cold from that.
But again, from the AFL, if we go back to that for a second, mate, I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, CJ, but Pies Tigers to restart the season.
I think so.
Which
wasn't that the opening round?
Yeah, no, that was Tigers Carlton.
Carlton, that's right.
But they did play each other in round 2.
Yeah.
But again, no, this is awesome. This is exactly what.
So if they kept the draw the same as it was going to,
again, we said this 10 minutes ago, Guzman. We said
they're redoing it every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks, they're releasing the draws.
So same as the NRL, I think.
Yeah, same as the NRL. Actually, we will touch on that briefly too, mate. The NRL returning in, what is it?
Next weekend?
Yeah, next weekend, I want to say. What's the date?
Today's the, 19th?
Yeah.
20th?
Something like that.
Next Friday.
It's not Tuesday.
So next Friday, it's
19th.
Next Friday, Brisbane Broncos, Parramatta.
What a fixture.
That'll be the first
time
game
they've faced since
58-0, yeah.
Since the incident.
Pokegate.
Yeah. Since Dragon Gate.
And then I believe the Roosters are playing the Rabbitohs.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing a few of the rivalry sort of games.
Get people back in the spirit.
Warriors against footy. So Warriors against the Titans, I hope.
Yeah, that is a bastion of Australian
so
NRL.
Next Friday, that'll be the return to sport in Australia.
I'm keen for it because it's something for us to talk about. And I'm keen to watch it because I've been bored and haven't known. There's a hole in my life.
So boys,
last night I hugged a gourd. That's a reference from The Office.
Hope so.
Yep.
Anyway, boys, let's finish the show with a bit of a gimmicky sporting topic because again, all things going well. This is one of the last episodes where we chat about not much sport really, or not much actual action, and rather what's going on off the field. Now, boys. The K-League, they decided last week, again, they've just started their season. They're about 2 rounds in. And they decided that to simulate the fact that there were fans in the crowd, they plonked a bunch of sex dolls around the ground and put jerseys on them and flags and absolutely fascinating.
Why not?
What?
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, doing research for this, had to go on incognito mode. Was not good.
Sorry, Mum.
I get really weird pop-up ads now for some reason.
They were wearing jerseys, so it's not as though it was actually completely terrible.
But were they actually sex dolls? Because that's
they looked quite realistic to me. And I'm no sex doll expert.
Yeah.
Gus, maybe you can speak more on this.
Crossing over to the BTS sex doll expert.
Well,
Brian.
I just don't understand. Why would you use sex dolls? Why don't you just use normal
cardboard cutout?
Well, normal mannequins. That's what
a
the
good point,
Gold Coast Titans.
Because were they actually sex dolls?
Are we using the Gold Coast Titans as like a exemplar of what
they did only have 3 mannequins, I believe. So.
Well, I mean that's more than they normally get.
Biggest crowd of the year.
No, but were they actually sex dolls? Or were they just blow-up dolls of some kind?
I think they had an odd shape with the mouth.
Alrighty.
So I think they were real.
We'll take that with that. But basically, boys, it prompts the debate on what should stadiums and sports clubs and organisations be doing when sport does resume to simulate crowds being there. Now, personally, I love the idea. Now, this came up just before the A-League ended.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely fell in love with this idea, thought it'd be a blockbuster.
Blockbuster.
That's the one, isn't it? Hit. It'd just absolutely go bananas. Get 2 fans in the stadium. One of each team.
I remember you telling me.
One of each team.
Yep.
And they sit on opposite ends of the stadium. So they're far away. They are very much social distancing, Gusman.
Mm-hmm.
Get them mic'd up.
That would be great.
And, man, they could just, throw chat throughout the whole 80 or 90 minutes.
Yeah. I'd love to see
an
comedians.
Absolute blast.
I'd like to see comedians who are fans of teams at either end because that would actually be witty kind of.
Well, how many people can you get? Can't you do 10? So couldn't you get 10 people in and
That's not a restaurant. Call it a school. We can pack it out.
Yeah, they do serve food.
This is true.
They do. Yeah. I mean,
maybe that's something we need to do. We need to review the food of the Gabba.
Have like 10 people at each end.
You work at Suncorp. We can. What are the chicken tenders like, pal?
Oh,
expensive.
Oh, terrible.
You reckon?
Yeah, it's like I think it's like $12 or $13 for chicken tenders and chips.
Yeah. What is your go-to? Because we mentioned go-to beverages. What's your go-to stadium food?
Travel pie.
Yeah.
Traveller pie. I like that.
I don't eat at stadiums because I'm wise and I try and save.
He's better than that.
Stingy.
If I was
better than us, CJ.
If I was,
he's better than Traveller pie.
If I was, I'd probably go for a sausage roll. I have once made the mistake of buying pizza off one of those people who walk down the aisles. You know, they carry the big boxes with them. I was like, oh, yeah, I'll get a pizza. I thought it was a full pizza. They opened it up. It's a box with one slice in it. I'm like, I feel...
chipped off.
I did. I felt horrible. I was like, oh, my God, I can't really return this now.
No. Yeah. Well, I'm a big 4 and 20 guy.
Yeah.
I don't mind the chicken tenders. I'll go chicken tenders and some chips. Can't go wrong.
Even a hot dog won't go amiss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not my first choice, but I do like a good hot dog. You smack it down.
See, boys, this is exactly what sports fans are missing.
Yeah, exactly.
This is why we need sport back and we need stadiums filled and hopefully preaching, if you're watching here, Fun Police, back off when it comes to stadiums. Of course, we saw justice for Geordie at the Boxing Day test last year. And of course, boys, you guys would have seen it.
Yeah.
You go to games now and when you did go to games, mate, the police, they walk around in like SWAT gear, eh?
Yeah.
And they try and find someone who's drinking 2 light beers and
that
they'll
is
kick them
fun,
out.
though. I love that. I love seeing someone who's absolutely hammered, mortal, shirt off. He's probably got some speed dealers on. He's burnt to a crisp.
Beers and more beers.
Yeah, he's making some great chants. I love, if there's a kid who walks through the front row, he's got a Gatorade in hand, you get the skull chant going.
Yeah.
Why are we waiting? I love seeing someone get roped out of a crowd.
Yeah.
It is. It's like, sure, it's Fun Police, but if they're absolutely hammered and they're being a knob, then
that's
it's
different
good fun.
though. But again, I'm talking about the situations where
With
people
Geordie
are,
Barrett, that was terrible.
where people are very much not hammered, and these beers, they are watered down.
Oh yeah,
they are very. It
is the
they're very
definition
light
of a
beers.
spicy water.
Exactly. So I don't know. Hopefully the Fun Police back off, and hopefully when sport does resume and we can go back to stadiums, we can learn to love again, Campbell and Gusman. We can learn to love sport again and stadiums again. Anyway, boys, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you, Faithful, for tuning into episode 43. If you haven't already, make sure to check us out on our social media profiles. Of course, that's Facebook and Instagram. Facebook, name of the podcast. You should know that by now.
Yeah.
And on Instagram, it is at _ Beyond the Sidelines _ That is also the name of our podcast. Again, Beyond the Sidelines.
Pretty simple.
So reference
with
the Facebook.
Underscores.
Without
on
underscores.
On
the
yes.
Facebook, Campbell.
Yes.
It's very clear,
I see
actually.
what you mean. Yep.
Name of the podcast on the Facebook, underscores on either side. For the Instagram, have fun with it. Make it your own. DM us.
I mean, you want to type it correctly. But yes, like it, comment, let us know what you think.
Exactly. We're having a lot of good fun with this podcast. Still 43 episodes and nearing the 1 year mark. Of course,
She's elusive.
That's pretty cool.
She's elusive.
Because I remember sitting at Campbell's, I want to say episode 1, or it could have even been, editing the trailer. So this is before episode 1 going, okay, boys, on Friday we're recording number 1, or on Thursday we're recording episode 1. And I don't know, ever since then, it's just absolutely flown by because we are having fun, doing it with a smile on our faces, and many more to come, I hope so, boys. So
you guys are all right. You're all right, blokes.
Yeah, I've only put up with you guys for 43 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, again, Faithful, check us out on social media, and hopefully we'll see some sport really, really soon, and we can have some fun chats. But of course,
28th of May. Let's go.
28th of May.
Yes, come on, boys.